You guys asked for it, and you got it. In this video, I'm going to do a timeline of my disability. As always, my name's David, and this is Ramped Up. So Duchenne is a progressive disease, so that means over time I've developed more and more symptoms. And mapping the initial appearance of each symptom on a timeline really gives a sense of when they occurred in relation to each other, but also how the rate of disease progression has changed over time. Let's get right into it. The first point on the timeline is 1990, the year I was born. And first of all, it's important to point out that I was a normal, healthy baby. Aren't I just the cutest? So there was nothing to indicate there's anything out of the ordinary. I learned to walk and talk and all that good stuff. In 1995, I was officially diagnosed. I had been showing slight difficulty walking long distances and walking upstairs, but the definitive sign that something wasn't right happened during my first Little League game. Seeing how much slower and less active I was than the other kids showed that something wasn't right, and the doctors eventually had to do a muscle biopsy to determine specifically what was going on. Around 1999 or 2000, I stopped walking altogether. It had been getting difficult for me to walk even really short distances, and it was becoming dangerous with how often I was falling down. At first I started using a walker, and then when my grandma passed away, I got her motorized scooter, before ultimately using a power wheelchair. And basically sitting all the time, I started to develop a slight curve in my spine. And in 2004, it reached a critical point where I was going to need spinal fusion surgery to correct it, which is actually a huge ordeal. They open you up from the shoulders to the tailbone and attach all your vertebrae together using screws, essentially fusing it, hence the name spinal fusion, into one rigid piece. But we ultimately decided against this surgery because there were too many risks. Everything was relatively stable for 5 or 6 years after this. There were little things here and there, but no real major events. That's kind of how this disability goes, year to year and even month to month sometimes. A long period of stability, followed by an appearance of a new symptom, followed by a long period of adjustment. But new symptoms kind of appear randomly, and this unpredictable nature of my disability is what makes it especially difficult to manage. Which brings me to 2010. This one began a rough couple of years, because I was also going to college while trying to adjust to several new symptoms. Dean and myself had been getting increasingly No! Feeding myself had been getting increasingly more difficult, as putting my hand up to my mouth was getting harder and harder to do. So I had to adapt. For example, I had put the plate right up under my mouth, so I had less distance for my arm to go. But eventually, it became too impractical. And I just had people feed me. 2011, I started having difficulty sleeping, waking up in the middle of the night out of breath, and generally not feeling rested. That's because people with Duchenne all eventually develop sleep apnea and need assisted breathing at night. This is when I started sleeping with a BiPAP machine. For several years, beginning around the end of high school, I had been gradually losing weight. Basically because with the muscle weakness, it was requiring more and more calories to do things. In July of 2012, I had surgery to get a feeding tube. And really quick, I'll show you what that looks like Seriously though, the feeding tube was a really good thing. I was down to about 75 pounds at the time of the surgery, and over the next year I gained like 25 pounds. I had also been having difficulty breathing, getting out of breath, and getting tired more easily. I found myself managing my breathing, planning out every second of my day to ensure breathing easy. But again, this became too impractical. In 2013, I started using a ventilator full time. Then, another period of stability for a few years until New Year's Eve 2016. Eating had been getting more difficult. Then eating softer foods and paying extra careful attention when I was chewing and swallowing. But inevitably I choked on a Swedish meatball of all things. Very shortly after that, I stopped eating by mouth entirely. And I can still remember the very last thing I ate. Chicago-style deep dish pizza. That's not bad for a last meal. Which brings me to today. I'm sort of in a period of stability right now, but after going through all of that, I'm confident I can handle whatever comes next. Well, there you have it. If you have any questions about anything I talked about in the video, please feel free to ask it in the comments. I'd be happy to address any of those points in more detail. I know we're really pressing for people to comment more, but there aren't really many communities built up around having a severe disability, and we're hoping to build one here on this channel. If you liked the video, please give it a like, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Also, if you could, please share the video with your friends, share it to your social media. Every little bit helps. Stacy insisted that I show that we're both matching today. She likes to get me dressed in the same colors as her.
We're so cute.
Oh, jeez.